Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to episode 37 of Buha's Block. The Lakers drafted Dalton Knecht at number 17. I just got back from the Lakers practice facility where they had a draft night event for the media. We also spoke with Rob Pelinka after the Lakers made the pick for Knecht, and it was a surprise pick because most people had Knecht going in the top 10 or the late lottery at a minimum if he slipped at all. And the fact that he was there for the Lakers at number 17 was a surprise to them. It was a surprise to us. It was a surprise to pretty much the NBA world. Knecht is a 6'5" sharp shooting wing with a 6'9" wingspan. He projects more as a shooting guard than a small forward, but in shoes, he's going to be 6'6", 6'6 and a half. He measured at 6'5 and a quarter without shoes. So he does have the size to play theoretically either wing position. That's going to come down to his ability to defend and his ability to improve. He is 23 years old. So he's coming in as a bit of an older rookie, a bit of an older prospect. He did play 5 years in college, but he won SEC Player of the Year. He won the Julius Erving Award for the best small forward in the country. So he's coming in with quite the fifth year senior season and quite the pedigree and resume, especially as a number 17 pick. I have 5 takeaways from the Lakers selecting Knecht. All right, let's get into it. Takeaway number 1 is Knecht is potentially the steal of the draft from a value perspective. Again, he was expected to go in the top 10. In some mocks, he was projected to go as high as number 6 to Charlotte. Actually, in the Athletics mock, I have it here from Sam Vecini. He had Knecht going number 6 to Charlotte in his final mock that went up today. He also had Knecht as his number 9 prospect overall on his draft board. So that shows you one of the smartest people covering the draft in the business in Sam Vecini had Knecht as a top 9 prospect in this draft. But Rob Pelinka spoke about it in his post-draft press conference with us, where he got a wave of anxiety around the number 11 pick once they saw Knecht was slipping a bit. And with each coming pick, they felt, okay, here's where he's about to get drafted. Here's where he's about to get drafted. And he ends up falling to them at number 17. And then Pelinka said at that point, because the Lakers had him unanimously in the top 10 of their draft board with all of their scouts, that there was no conversation about which player they're going to take there at number 17. And we do tend to hear that a lot of times, like every pick, like the team was higher on them, had that player higher on their board. But in this case, I believe it, because in all the conversations I had with people in and around the Lakers, Dalton Knecht never came up because no one thought he was going to be there. In conversations I've since had, people were really surprised that he was there, but very pleased with that outcome and very happy and optimistic with the selection. So when we look back at this draft, years from now, there is a chance that this Knecht pick, he's not going to be the best player in the draft, most likely. I mean, really with this draft, you never know. Like he could end up being the best player in the draft, but like realistically, he's probably not going to be the best player in this draft, but getting him at number 17 compared to some of the guys that went ahead of him, I think could prove to be a real steal. They did not make the same mistake as last season where they passed on Cam Whitmore. Now, Cam Whitmore had some medical issues, had a knee issue that was a red flag for the Lakers and some other teams. But the Lakers didn't make those same mistakes from last season. They drafted the best guy available, the guy who clearly should have gone there at that point in the draft based on who had been taken and who was still there. So, this could be a great value for the Lakers, considering, again, where he was projected to go, why he was projected to go there, which we're about to get into, and where he ended up falling. So the Lakers might have gotten the steal of the draft again, and only time will tell. You don't win based on comparing your selection to the mock drafts necessarily. But again, this was a guy that was unanimously considered around that top 10, top 12. And for him to slip to 17, I think is a really good value for LA. Takeaway number 2 is Knecht immediately becomes a legitimate shooting weapon for the Lakers. So I'm going to run through some of the numbers here for Knecht based on his shooting from last season. He shot 39.7% on 6.5 attempts per game, 42.3% on catch and shoot threes, which is an elite mark. 39.7% overall is obviously a great mark as well. 36.8% on threes off of screens. So that shows that he's a really good movement shooter. He was 9th in the country in makes per game and 11th in the country in attempts per game. So one of the best shooters in college basketball, period. And he can function as a catch and shoot threat. So if the Lakers want to just simply have him in the corner or on the weak side above the arc, and it's just simply he's spacing the floor on the weak side, and it's an option for LeBron to drive and kick to. It's an option for AD to hit out of the short roll, or as a passing hub, as the Lakers are going to look to get him more involved offensively. Knecht can just be a catch and shoot spot up guy and shoot 38 to 42% and be an elite off-ball threat there. But that's to say nothing of his off-ball ability as a movement shooter. The Lakers can run him off of pin downs and floppy actions and flare screens and veer screens and different screening actions and scenarios to get him open and create space. And he can make those shots at a really impressive rate. And then he has really good footwork in terms of his ability to navigate off-ball screens, create separation from defenders, and really good body control with his ability to catch and quickly go up. It doesn't waste movement. He's a very efficient shooter in terms of just catching and rising and turning his body all in one motion. From that perspective, the Lakers have been in dire need of better three-point shooters, better high-volume three-point shooters, and he completely checks that box. Again, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the draft, one of the best three-point shooters in college basketball, and he's immediately going to step in, and that is his NBA ready, like day one skill is his three-point shooting. And again, it could be as a catch and shoot spot up guy, but it could also be off of movement, as I'm going to cover in a later takeaway. But from his first day as an NBA player, he's going to be in the conversation for best shooter on the team, even if the Lakers end up retaining a D'Angelo Russell or a Taurean Prince. And that is a valuable asset to get with the number 17 pick. Takeaway number 3 is Knecht is a 3-level threat. So he's not just a shooter. As Sam Vecini wrote in his breakdown of Knecht's game, he called him the most NBA-ready scorer in the draft. And I think that's high praise even for this draft. But getting that guy again at number 17, he could do so much offensively inside the arc. He's gotten really good at pump faking against closeouts and blowing by defenders, getting to the rim. He has a 39-inch vertical. So he has one of the highest verticals in the draft. Really good athlete and can finish. He can dunk on guys. He can finish over 7-footers or finish over big men. Is really good with his body control and contorting himself and adjusting in air. So he's not just a catch and shoot or even movement shooter. He's a guy who can put the ball on the floor. And it's going to be interesting to see how his handle plays out. He is more of like a straight line drive guy, and he's gotten better with his pick and roll ball handling and his ability to put guys in jail, put them behind him and put them on his hip. But he's not quite at that level yet offensively in terms of his handle, his passing, his playmaking. He can improve there. He's still more of a shoot first guy than a creator for his teammates. But his ability to also cut, he can backdoor cut if you're going to overplay him. If you're going to top lock him, he can cut. He can cut from a normal sense of just cutting from the wings and finding different ways to get open. And he's just really crafty and a smart off-ball player. So those are things that the Lakers can exploit depending on, again, what his role is and what his usage is and all that stuff. But he is an asset offensively in terms of his ability to score at all 3 levels. He theoretically is a win now guy, is a ready to play guy that the Lakers can slot into likely the back end of the rotation, I would assume, depending on what the roster looks like. But if he can be a 12 to 15 minute a night guy from day one, like that is a valuable thing. And there's also the upside for more, right? And maybe he does crack the top 7 or the top 8, and that's potentially wishful thinking. Well, again, we'll see what he looks like in summer league. We'll see what the roster looks like, but there's the potential there for him to have a larger than expected offensive role, just given all that he can do with the basketball and then also without the basketball. Takeaway number 4 is there is no better mentor for Knecht than JJ Redick. And one of the viral anecdotes from Rob's post-draft press conference was him saying that immediately after making the pick, JJ Redick busted out a whiteboard and already started drawing up pin down actions and ATO sets for Knecht and figuring out different ways to use him. And in many ways, there are shades of JJ Redick with Dalton Knecht. His ability to come off those floppy actions and rise up, and the body control and the quick trigger, and even so, like, he's coming in as a bigger player than JJ Redick, as a more athletic player than JJ Redick, as a player better at putting the ball on the floor and finishing at the rim. So he has some advantages in comparison with JJ Redick. And Knecht spoke to the media after being drafted, and when relayed that anecdote about JJ already drawing up plays for him, he said that JJ was actually one of the guys he studied with head coach Rick Barnes at Tennessee, that he really studied JJ's game and his off-ball movement and the way that he was used at the NBA level. So there's a symbiotic connection there between those two. Again, Knecht is shades of JJ Redick, and it's clear that Redick is going to enjoy having a player similar to him on the roster. And there's going to be different types of actions that the Lakers can run with him that are JJ Redick-esque, and that only Knecht can potentially run, just given his shooting level and his ability to shoot off of screens and off of movement. So I think JJ Redick is probably as excited as anyone outside of Dalton Knecht, and already hearing that he's working plays up, and that could translate at Summer League. Redick might coach the Summer League team in Las Vegas, so we could start to see some of those actions and sets then, and just the way that he might function in JJ's system. But there is no better mentor for Dalton Knecht than JJ Redick. Like, the only better mentor, I mean, a Reggie Miller or like a Ray Allen or maybe a Rip Hamilton. Like, it's a short list of guys that Klay Thompson, like, you know, there are guys that did it at a higher level than JJ, but JJ might be a more realistic archetype for Dalton Knecht, and a more realistic standard and expectation for him. So I think that fit is going to be great for Knecht in terms of easing him into the NBA, figuring out his role, figuring out his strengths, and having a guy like JJ who can, through experience, really show him the ropes and figure out the best way to use him offensively. Takeaway number 5 is potential concerns with Knecht. Now, as with any player, as with any prospect, any rookie, there are going to be some concerns, some weaknesses, some drawbacks. So I have a few here. He is 23, which is on the older side for a rookie. I mean, it's basically as old as it gets for a rookie, outside of like undrafted guys or some second round guys. But for the most part, like a first round rookie, 23 is about as old as it gets. And that could have been a legitimate concern for some teams, and that might have been why he slipped. And then with that, being 23, you're coming in as a more ready-made prospect in terms of like the ceiling isn't necessarily as high. Now, I will say with Knecht, he was a late bloomer. He was someone who had a couple of growth spurts later in his high school and college career. He started at a JUCO and then worked his way up to getting to Tennessee as a fifth-year senior. So he is someone who has had a chip on his shoulder. He's had to work for everything he's gotten in basketball, and he talked about that and just that mentality, and like that is something that the Lakers are attracted to. And I think like that is something that could serve him well from a development standpoint, and him continuing to get better as a player. But it does need to be said that he is already 23, and at the same time, Austin Reeves was I believe 22 or 23 off the top of my head. So could be some similarities there in terms of just a guy stepping in and being ready to take on more of an offensive load or more offensive responsibility than anticipated, and could be kind of a similar situation to what happened with Austin in his rookie season. Now, it also does put some more pressure on Knecht to be ready to contribute, because again, if he was 19, you could say, well, give it a year, give it a couple years, give it 3 years. And maybe the Lakers don't even draft him if he's 19, because they are trying to find a win now, type rookie. So there's that pressure of like, he needs to ideally figure it out within the first couple months. Like, of course, there's always a rookie learning curve, and there's going to be some level of adjusting. But if it's mid-season and he's not in the rotation because he's just not that good or not ready yet, then I think that is a bit of a hit for the Lakers, at least this next season, when they are trying to win now and maximize the window with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Also, as I mentioned, the passing and the ball handling could stand to improve. So those are a couple of areas he's going to have to sharpen and tighten up as he tries to take on a certain role offensively. And look, if he's just going to be a catch and shoot guy, a movement shooter, and not really handle the ball, then those are lesser concerns. But if he is going to handle the ball at all and potentially be a shooting guard and sometimes like a co-primary ball handler, he's going to have to improve in those areas. But the biggest concern of all is going to be the defensive end. And despite being a plus athlete, despite being quick and big and strong and having a +4 wingspan, he's 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan. Knecht gets blown by on the perimeter, and he's not a good on-ball defender. And by most draft nicks and draft experts and even talking to some people at the Lakers, like as of now, that is the one area of his game that he's going to have to improve on. And Lakers believe he's competitive, he has the right mindset, and if he is lowering his usage and taking a smaller role offensively, there's a thought that he can take on a bigger role defensively, not unlike looking at a guy like Austin again. Last year he took a little bit of a step back offensively with LeBron and AD there, and then also D'Lo stepping up a bit and being the clear number 3 for most of the season. So Austin was able to focus on defense a bit more that second half of the season, and even his first couple years in the league when he was more of a role player and more of a defensive minded guy. So I think they look at Knecht as, if he can do some of that, that would be nice, of just, if you are just going to be flying around screens and spotting up and being an off-ball guy, then that means you have the legs and the energy to ramp it up defensively. But his ability to contain the ball, right now, he projects more as a guy who needs to be defending the worst or second worst perimeter option, and probably worse, teams are going to target him. But the thing is, he has the athleticism, he has the size, he has the athleticism to improve defensively. So there is a ceiling there, and there is room for improvement, but it's just going to be a matter of, can he apply himself? Can he work on that? Can he improve on that? Rob Pelinka said that he's confident that Knecht can defend 2s and 3s. So, we'll see if he's actually able to do that. And then the final thing from me on this is, I think if we're looking at the biggest needs for the roster, I do think shooting was at the top of the list or near the top of the list. But for me, I also look at defense and just size, roster size, primarily on the wings and in the front court. And Knecht does not check either one of those boxes. Again, he is somewhere between a slightly below average defender to a minus defender. And at 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan, I guess we'll say 6'6" in shoes. It's solid size, but again, him not being a good defender mitigates some of that. And I think the Lakers ideally would have added a player who was 6'8", 6'9", or bigger, and it's either a big forward like a Tristan da Silva or a big man, and that player could find their way in the rotation, but just bolster it with some size, some length, and some defense. And now, Tristan da Silva was the number 18 pick. And again, the Lakers did not expect Knecht to be there. And had he gone earlier, maybe the Lakers end up drafting da Silva. And da Silva has his own concerns. He's also an older prospect. To me, if we were ranking the Lakers' biggest needs, I would say defense would be number 1. Length and size would be number 2, and shooting would have been number 3. They did not address the first 2 needs, and they might not have much of a chance to address the first 2 needs, because if they are keeping Knecht, which all indications are they are keeping this pick, then that brings them to 9 players, and then they have 4 guys with player options in LeBron, D'Lo, Cam Reddish, and Jackson Hayes. There's a chance all 4 guys opt in, or maybe LeBron opts out and then ends up re-signing. And that brings you to 13 guys, and that's before factoring in Max Christie, Taurean Prince, or Spencer Dinwiddie. That's before factoring in the number 55 pick, which could end up being Bronny, or the Lakers could trade up to acquire Bronny in the second round on Thursday. And that does not include any potential free agent signings. So the Lakers could have a bit of a roster crunch here. And the fact that it seems like they're keeping Knecht, it does put an emphasis on his defense and his ability to hold up on that end. Because the Lakers, if he's a 40% three-point shooter, that's going to be an asset, and he's going to play and he's going to have a role. But if he's a minus defender, that is going to limit his role theoretically and limit the Lakers' defensive versatility and defensive optionality when he's out there. So the Lakers need him to improve defensively. I still think they need a different center than Hayes and Wood. I think they need another 3-and-D wing or 2 that are improvements on Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt. So those things are going to be tough to find, and the Lakers could obviously attach the 2029 and 2031 picks to some of their mid-sized salaries to find that type of player. But if I'm trying to nitpick this pick, it was the best player available. It's a great value. It could be the steal of the draft, and it does check an important box. But at the same time, I think the Lakers need more front court and wing and perimeter size. I don't think Knecht fully checks that box, especially defensively. And then they just need more defense overall in those spots as well, and he does not check that box. So that's where some of my concern comes in with Knecht's potential fit, his ability to actually impact the roster. But again, if he's going to shoot 40+% or even 38+% from day one and be that type of offensive weapon, he's going to have a role and he's going to contribute. I just think the Lakers are running out of roster spots to address the other concerns, and they might have to make some wholesale changes in terms of the types of guys that they end up trading to reshape this roster a bit. I'm feeling in the mood, so I'm going to give you a bonus takeaway. Takeaway number 6 is what happens next. And what I mean by that is I just had a conversation on episode 36 with Sam Amick from The Athletic about his report that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are lacking patience right now. They want the Lakers to make win now moves, and they want them to improve this roster, go out and get another high-level elite player. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an all-star, but it does have to be another high-level starter that improves the starting lineup, improves the roster, and gives them more confidence in the Lakers' ability to compete for championships, to compete in the West. So the Lakers making the number 17 selection and not trading that pick. They could still technically trade Knecht. And the fact that he fell to them as a potential top 10 pick, like I'm sure there are teams that weren't able to draft him that viewed him as a top 10, as a top 12 pick, that maybe the Lakers can attach him plus a mid-sized salary and get something legitimate back and get a real upgrade. And maybe they do that, and maybe this conversation is moot. But if they stand pat and they don't end up trading the number 17 pick and it ends up just being potentially the 2029 and 2031 picks, I'm curious to see how LeBron James and Anthony Davis feel about that. Now, Anthony Davis is under contract for several more years with his extension set to kick in. But LeBron James has a very important choice to make, whether he wants to opt in or opt out and potentially re-sign. And if he's not happy with the roster and he's not happy with the state of things, that could make things a little tricky, could make things get a little interesting with how they play out over the next week or so. So just one observation with Knecht is like in a vacuum, it is a great pick. It's a great value. It is, again, potentially the steal of the draft, potentially the steal of the first round. And I think he really helps with his offensive capabilities, his offensive skill, his shooting, and the way that the Lakers can use him. But at the end of the day, LeBron James and Anthony Davis do not care about player development. They don't care about rookies. They don't care about young guys and the future of the Lakers. They care about competing for championships and winning number 18 and winning number 5 for LeBron and number 2 for AD. So the fact that that is not diametrically opposed, I think that's a little too strong, but somewhat opposed to the Lakers prioritizing a rookie and prioritizing player development and trying to think about 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road, as well as thinking about this season. It's a very delicate balance. And right now it's a balance that I think is going the opposite direction of what LeBron and AD want. And of course, the Lakers could pull a rabbit out of the hat and maybe they draft Bronny and maybe that slightly appeases LeBron to some extent, although all public indications have been that is not the case from at least from LeBron's side. But I just think like the Lakers need to do something to improve this roster. I think them standing pat is going to be a mistake. I think bringing in a knockdown shooter who slipped out of the top 10 is a good step in that direction, but they need to do more, and they likely need to make a trade. And we'll see what happens with D'Angelo Russell. We'll see what happens with the trade market. But I think the Lakers need to be aggressive in trying to upgrade the roster and make a move, because if they stand pat and just run it back and just basically have last year's team, that's a good team, a team that could win a round, maybe even win 2 rounds if the bracket breaks right, if the matchups break right. But I don't think that's a team that is going to win a championship with some of the match. Like they're playing Denver in the conference finals. I think that's going to be a tough series. And who knows with Oklahoma City or Minnesota or Dallas, like I think the Lakers have had success against those teams dating back to the last couple seasons. And especially looking at OKC and Minnesota, those teams are young and hungry and getting better. So I'm curious how LeBron and AD feel after tonight's results, the Lakers not making a draft day trade. And again, there's still time for them to do it. There's still time for them to make a move in free agency. So the offseason is young. The offseason has just started. There's no point in overreacting, but it's just something I'm monitoring. It's just something I'm curious about, especially with that report coming out, the timing of the report coming out. It's just something I'm keeping an eye on. But that will do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. For those on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, drop a comment, and like this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back tomorrow, potentially, after the second round of the draft. If not tomorrow, I'll be back Friday morning. It just depends schedule-wise and what happens tomorrow. I mean, if there's a big deal or if they draft Bronny, I will be back tomorrow night, and then we'll see about Friday. But I will be back at least once more this week, so be on the lookout for that. And thank you again for watching and listening. I will talk to you soon.